The Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by Mid Carolina Service Company.
Mid Carolina Service Company is the first name to search for your residential or commercial HVAC needs in Lexington and surrounding areas.
Just go holler at Jason and Clint. They'll hook you up on the air conditioners, on the restaurant equipment, refrigerators, refrigeration, ice machine repair. They've been doing this for years. I know them cats forever.
Family owned and operated since 2006, they pride themselves in their quality work and customer relationships. Call 803-356-4153 or visit midcarolinaserviceco.com for a no obligation quote for service today.
The Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by True Brilliance Entertainment.
True Brilliance is a production, promotions, and management company dedicated to connecting artists and producers across the Carolinas to music industry professionals.
Several of their clients have placements both domestic and internationally as a result of their services.
Are you an artist or producer looking to build meaningful relationships within the music industry? Then True Brilliance is for you. Check them out at paramilitary.com. That's spelled P-A-I-R-A military.com.
This episode of the Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by Bob's. Bob's is a Columbia-based retailer of over 100 Black-owned products from 20 Black-owned businesses. Bob's offers a wide range of items from household cleaning, cosmetics, and everything in between. With every visit to Bob's, you support Black-owned businesses, giving them the opportunity to grow and establish connections with our community. Bob's is located inside the Noma warehouse at 2222 Sumter Street in Columbia, South Carolina. Visit their website, weshopbobs.com for in-store pickup or to find out more. Bob's can also be found via social media on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at weshopbobs. When you stop by, tell them the Hilltop Glove sent you. Bob's brings quality Black brands to the Columbia community. The Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by Red Rooster Sports Bar and Grill. Red Rooster is your neighborhood bar and grill serving the best wings, burgers, and baskets in the Met.
Like the amazing food, the bar is always on tap, and there's plenty of screens to watch the big game. Red Rooster is the Midland's premier meetup spot for local car and bike clubs, fraternities, and sororities.
Staff is dedicated to accommodating all kinds of parties and events. If you're looking to catch a game, have a bite, and a drink, look no further than the Red Rooster.
Red Rooster is located at 7500 Wilson Boulevard, Columbia, South Carolina. For more information, visit redroostersportsbar.com or visit them on Facebook and Instagram at Red Rooster Sports Bar. Go where the winners go.
Welcome to the Hilltop Glove Podcast.
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 Welcome to the Hilltop Glove Podcast, where Skip and DJ and What interview guests and discuss topics such as business, current events, and pop culture. The motivational podcast for the hip-hop millennial. Good morning. Happy Saturday, and welcome to this episode of the Hilltop Glove Podcast. I am your host, DJ and What, with my co-hosts and brothers, Skip and Mike. This is our 7th episode with our super inspirational guest, Brandy Henshaw, a.k.a. Beasy Baybie. Beasy Baybie is a radio and TV personality, motivational speaker, voiceover artist, actress, author, host, and much, much more than that. Again, I want to say good morning to Beasy Baybie. How has your year been thus far? If you could just catch us up with what you've been doing.
Good morning. I mean, it's been like everybody else's, kind of slow motion. Been unemployed, so that's been different. I'm used to running, like even when I was running illegally, I was kind of up early in the morning, late, up late at night. I was just always moving and going after it. So it's definitely been different, to say the least, this is my season of be still. And that doesn't mean like not moving. It just means moving a whole lot differently. So that's been a different thing for me, just having to sit down. Like my stepdad would say, sit your ass down. And that's a thing. So I've had to sit myself down. But outside of that, I'm blessed to be here because there's so many people that just didn't survive this year. So though my year has changed, it's still a blessing just to be in the number. So yeah, that's that.
Well, the reason why I asked that is because, of course, a lot of our followers, they know you from your radio work here locally in Columbia, South Carolina. As we all know, you were here on a hot 103.9 or 93.9 up until February of last year when you quit your job to pursue your own dreams. Could you tell us about that decision and what empowered you to make that leap? And of course, because of that, a lot of that stuff, the follow-up would be, how did COVID affect your decision that you made then at that time afterwards going into the rest of the year?
Well, radio is a part of my dream. So I didn't quit the station to pursue my dreams. Radio is a part of my dream. I didn't quit the station because I didn't like radio anymore. I absolutely loved radio. I absolutely loved my job. I loved Columbia. I loved the whole thing. There was nothing about it that made me upset, with the exception of who I was working for. There were some changes at the station, and those changes were making me very uncomfortable, mentally stressed, mentally and emotionally unwell. And I began to pray on those situations like, okay, God, I don't know. Sometimes it's difficult to see. Is God using a situation to strengthen you, to help build character, to develop you into who you'll need to be to manifest the rest of your promise? Or is God saying, I'm making you uncomfortable because I want you to move, and the only way you'll move is if I make you uncomfortable? So because I was in that season, I just kept praying. And it was a good 8 months of just kind of dealing with and pushing through. I would literally get super anxious just pulling into the parking lot. I lie to you not. I suffer from anxiety just generally and PTSD just from, my prior life. But I never had to experience that in my new life, in my better life, in my I'm doing everything right life. So it was very different. And I had to decide, do I want this job so much that I'm willing to jeopardize my mental and emotional wellness? Do I want to serve my community, through radio so much that I'm sacrificing myself? And I would have, real talk, I'm that person that I would sacrifice myself for the betterment of the whole. But as I continue to go to God, and I'd say the first week of February, he showed me that I no longer had to do that, and that it was time for that chapter to close. And I didn't know what the next chapter was. He was showing me in dreams, and I have a whole podcast episode myself on it. But just the moral of the story was every time that I prayed, he gave me a different sign that led me to the door. And the final thing was I had a meeting with my supervisors and gone back into the studio, and I was literally praying. Hip hop music was playing in the background, and I was 4 minutes away from a break, and I was standing there behind the equipment praying, and I was like, God, you got to tell me what to do because I'm not going to make it. You know me, you know my threshold, and I'm about to combust in here. So if you want me to push through, I'm going to push through because I know that my strength lies in you, so I'll just keep moving forward every day. But if you're telling me to go, I just need one last sign, make something happen that I can't do, make it so big that I know, okay, God is saying get on through. So as I'm praying, simultaneously, the studio door busts open. And this little white lady that worked on the business side of the station is standing there. And we didn't have a friendship, we worked together, but we weren't friends, So I thought she wanted something for work. So I said, hey, what's up? And she was like, is everything okay? And I said, well, yeah, why, what's up? Because I'm not going to put her down my personal life. So I'm just going through the motions. Yeah, everything's straight. What's up? And she said, well, I just overheard your boss on the phone with someone in corporate telling them that he's got to figure out a way to fire you. And I was like, what? Yeah. So anyway, she went on with the conversation and everything she had heard. And I was like, well, that's it. Because one thing about me is I'm not perfect, but in everything that I do, I try to make sure that I'm representing God right. That doesn't mean I will, but I'm going to try to.
You're going to try your best, yeah.
Yeah. So when you tell me that you're going to try to put something together to make my integrity be questionable, that's a problem for me. When I've spent, I got out of jail in July 2010. So I've spent the last 10 years working to turn that around, to show people they could trust me, to kind of X out the felon that's on the paperwork. So No way. God knew that I wasn't going to let him do that to me or to God, because if I'm representing God, then you making us both look bad with whatever you about to make up. So that was the last straw for me.
Mm. So, all right. So that was February, the 6th?
Yeah, I think I quit. I don't know if I quit on the 5th or the 6th. I quit one day and my general manager was like not pleased with the fact that I wanted to quit. So he was trying to, attempt to get me to stay. And I told him what the conditions had to be. I don't even know that I can stay at this point because, bro, I'm tapped out. My mental and emotional health is I'm depleted. And you don't know how, first of all, I'm unwell. I'm telling you now, y'all have drained me to the point where I'm unwell. And if I stay in these conditions, knowing that the abuse, quote unquote, will continue, what's going to happen then? Whose fault is it going to be if I snap?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go ahead and spare us all because I know what I look like when I snap. I know who the old me used to be. You don't know that. But only thing that's going to happen is it's going to be convicted felon, Beasy Baybie, does da-da-da-da-da. Not all the stuff that happened that led up to this. So I'm going to go ahead and...
You're right. You're being straight up. No, seriously, because that's exactly how it ended. But like you said, with your faith and your focus in God, that was not allowed to happen. That was not allowed to happen in that situation.
When I quit, there was no COVID yet. Exactly. I quit, and in my mind, this is how God works. It's so, I got to share this because it's part of how God works. I quit on February 6th. I immediately thought, since I'm trusting God and I'm listening to his voice, when I get home, somebody's going to call me with a job. I just knew that was going to happen. So got home, and I ain't going to lie, the phone was ringing. I was getting calls from the West. I was getting calls from the North and the East. People were calling yo, you quit. I think I got a job coming up for you. Just stay put. I'm going to work some things out. The phone was ringing. So I just knew maybe I might, in my mind, I was I'm going to have a week or two off, a little vacation, but I'm going to get back to work ASAP. Next thing you know, COVID came. And that was within that 2-week period, COVID pops up in China. And the next thing you know, somebody over here had it. The whole radio industry shut down. Not only were they not hiring people, but they were firing people. Dang. So I'm oh man, there goes my job. I'm not going to be able to get another job when people are fighting to save their jobs just to remain employed. Right. And up to that point, I didn't have income. I had, whatever I had, my little last checks or whatever, but I didn't have a plan. I was just trusting God and choosing me, and making a decision based on those things. So one day a friend of mine called and was like, did you file for unemployment? And I said, nah, because I quit. You can't quit your job and then file for unemployment. And she was like, well, I think it might be different for you because you didn't want to quit. You were kind of bullied out the door. And I was like, well, so I prayed on it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to apply. And if I get it, I get it. If I don't, I don't. But I'm not going to do nothing crazy to get, I'm not going to lie on nothing. I'm not going to manipulate nothing. I'm just going to fill the paperwork out. So I filled it out. And then they denied me because they said I quit my job. So they said, did you quit? On a little questionnaire, it said, did you quit with good reason? So I said, yes. Ooh. So we had an appeal hearing. So the appeal hearing was the opportunity for me to say why I quit and for the company to say that didn't happen, or whatever. So at the hearing, I show up. Nobody shows up to represent the company.
Lord Jesus.
Yeah. So they said they sent a subpoena several times to the company and nobody ever responded to any of them. So I won the appeal. So this whole time I've been able to get unemployment and to be able to provide, for my family And this was nothing that was thought of in the beginning. You know, like this, I didn't quit my job thinking I'm gonna be able to get unemployment. I didn't think it was an option.
Yeah, because I was about to ask you, like, how like your plans, they were immediately changed by what was going on with COVID. So, like, you didn't have any backup? You didn't know what was going on? I was about to ask you, how did you make that work? How did you adapt?
That was it. I didn't have a plan. But that's how God works. Like sometimes, so I had a vision one day where God was showing me, I don't know who it was in the Bible. I can't remember, and I don't want to misquote the Bible. So I'm going to just give you the story. So in the Bible, someone was directed to walk to the river, and they were afraid that they shouldn't be following God's word to walk towards the river because the river was deep. And they like, basically, what's the point of walking to the river when I can't cross it because I can't get in that water and survive? And God was telling them, just walk once you get to the river, you'll see that you don't have anything to worry about. Just get there. Follow my voice. So they walked to the river, and when their feet got close to the river dried up. So I think that's how God worked in my life. And I think that's how he works a lot of times for us. He's not going to show us the whole thing, because if he does, then what do we need faith for? I think he gives us, walk to the river, and then you get to the river and the river is dry. And then the next step is cross the river, and you might have to cross the river until you hear what the next step is. So I think for me, it was just quit the job, and I had to just quit and just trust him that everything would be okay once I did it. I didn't know what the plan was. I really didn't know if everything would be okay. Like I had these situations before, so I trusted that no matter what, I'd be good. Like, what's the worst that can happen? I die. What happens when you die? You go to heaven. So is it really a bad thing? Yeah, like what's the worst that can happen? And the truth is, he met me at every step. Like even still now, he's met me at every step. I've gone without nothing. And the worst thing about all of this is just I've had to be a little more still. My ADD has set in a couple times, but we all dealing with that. It's COVID,
Yeah, speaking of which, because like you said, you're used to being out and on the go and doing things. Have you been able to push along or get any of the things that you were working on pre-COVID done? Or have you created any new endeavors or things out there that people can see and hear what you're doing? Like, have you gone back to the radio since?
No, I have not. No, I have not. I've written a book, so I've published my entire autobiography during this season. So that's out. I've done
What's the name of that?
I'm sorry?
What's the name of that autobiography again? I believe it's Convicted.
Yeah, Convicted, the Beasy Baybie story. Yeah, so I've done that. I've done some podcasting on my own. I have a podcast with Kool Kamp. And I've gotten into some acting, but for the most part, just, kind of looking for more. There, of course, different jobs have opened, but usually in radio, when jobs open, people kind of know what they're looking at for next. So, and it's usually somebody kind of in the company already. So but there haven't been too many opportunities, honestly. I think for the most part, I've just been kind of rebuilding, and, it's been tough, not just with like me quitting my job was a big deal, right? But in the grand scheme of things, like we're in the middle of a pandemic. So it's not as big a deal as the other stuff going on in the world.
Yeah.
So my concern has been really just staying healthy, making sure I remember to take my vitamins every day, making sure I'm washing my hands, staying out the way.
That is very true. You're not lying. I think that's the thing too, because our podcast is about adulting and learning how to deal with difficult times, difficult situations, but also still to be a productive member of our society and help your community and whatnot. So, especially going through this COVID situation that we've been in, everybody's been affected in a sense that they have to be actively participating and being something hopefully positive to what's going on, because there's not a lot of good in the situation that we're in. So, from that, you've had a lot of community involvement and interactions. Have you been able to work or be involved with the community at all? Anything that's going on currently?
Well, I do a Thanksgiving drive every year. So this year we still did that. just because it was easy for us to, still give people the things that they needed without actually having to engage too long. Normally, people come into a building, they get their things, they leave back out. This year we had to change it a little. So we did a drive-through where people just kind of pulled up and you kind of tossed turkeys and boxes of vegetables and mashed potatoes into the window. Masked up and got away real quick. So we were able to still help in that way. I've done some work with the prison through this system. So, I have a heart for the underserved. And I think the prison community is definitely an underserved community. So I've done some work just gathering like sneakers and shoes. A lot of time was when women leave the prison and come home, they have nothing. And as odd as it sounds, you would think women would have more help, but the community has kind of created assistance for men more than women. And I think that's just because there probably are more men inmates, than there are women. Yeah. So my work has been centered around trying to help the women. So I've been taking bags of clothing and shoes. Like every time someone donates it to me, I've been holding on to it. And then I take large hauls up to the prison for their pre-release program so that as women are released, they have some items, to kind of take home with them, hygiene products. So we've done that. Usually there's a Christmas give back every year where we actually have Christmas dinner with the less fortunate. And they are allowed to go shopping. So there's clothing and hygiene items and stuff like that. And then we all eat dinner together. This year, we kind of had to cancel that because there was just no way to safely do it. So hopefully we'll be able to pick that up, again next year.
So are you looking forward to anything else going on in the future? Like, I know one of the things that's making me happy about what I've been hearing in the news is that whether for good or not, we'll see what it looks like with everybody actually receiving them moving along with the phases of the vaccination program, rather. We're actually look like we'll be able to open up something soon and I think get to like 250 people into one location at a time, still using masks, but at least you'll be able to have people gather. If we start seeing that, do you think some things will open up per se in the community, things that we could be involved with, things that people could be out doing that are positive?
Yeah, I think that, if I'm not mistaken, it looks like the governor of South Carolina just lifted mask mandates and dropped, mask requirements at restaurants and government buildings. So if I had to guess, I would say South Carolina is probably going to be one of the first to bust it wide open. Yeah, McMaster don't look like he got any worries. So I do think that things will get back to what appears to be normal, quote unquote, but I think there will be extra concerns for a while. There will be a time before everybody can be vaccinated. That's going to take time. And I think we're going to open up before that happens. So, it's going to be there will be a time to go through prior to things getting back to quote unquote normal. And I don't know if there'll ever be completely normal again because we've experienced this thing now. Like in our lives, we ain't never had like this go down. I think now, we understand like we're not invincible. Wow, America can go through these types of things. Before that, I think our ego was super inflated. Like we thought pandemics were third world country issues. Nah, it's a real issue. And we need to make sure we have real leadership because when we don't, we run into circumstances such as these that affect us for years to come.
You ain't lying. And it seems too like the current situation that we're going through has put us in a situation where we had to actually revalue things around us. And I could see a lot of that in your journey that you've had to revalue things and put importance on things that at first, used to take a back burner. Do you have any opinion on that thought? And are there certain things that you've had to bring to the forefront and other things that you pushed on the back burner during this COVID situation?
I think that generally speaking, I've kind of had the same mindset since I came home from prison.
Wow.
BC or BP, before prison Beasy, is like two different mentalities. So before prison, I was really wrapped up in material things.
Gotcha.
I would like be on the new J's that just came out. Like
oh, no.
I had to look a certain way when I left the crib. I wanted to be in the popular crowd. Like all those things mattered to me. If it was something popping, I wanted to be a part of it. Now, I'll be honest, like, I really don't give a damn about none of it. As you can see, like, who walks away from a number one spot at a number one station when they are like that person in that city? I'm not attached to it anymore. That ain't to say that I don't want a nice big house and I don't still like nice things and I don't still go grab sneakers when they come out, but I'm not consumed by them. Like, when I went to prison, I literally lost it all. Like, everything.
You've had experience
was gone.
that. Yeah, you've actually had experience that. A lot of people don't.
Yeah, like that's a big loss. It wasn't just items I lost or a house I lost. Like, I lost my kids. So, and being in prison shows you who you are. You know, damn who everybody else is. It shows you who you are, what you're made of. So as I'm sitting in a cell, remembering like the days where I'd be walking up the street and people would be, yo, Beasy, beeping the horns. And like, I was that girl. I'm sitting in jail and I haven't had mail. Like, what happened here? So it made me realize that my stock was in the wrong thing. And gotcha. I was putting value in people, places, and things that were disposable. And so now my mentality after prison is my stock is in God and the things that he wants from me. Again, that doesn't mean I'm perfect. As you can see, I still cuss. It gets worse than that on the cussing level. I'm being nice because I'm like...
We appreciate it. It's all good, though. It's all good.
Yeah, I'm imperfect, but I'm after God's heart. Like, that's the truth. I really am after his heart, and I want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing. And because I've read the stories, I won't say I know God, because I think every time you think you know God, there's like some secret compartment that you've not discovered yet of surprise. Yep. But I'll say that I know enough to know that if I lean into him and I put my trust in him and I'm only attached to him and the things he wants for me, then I'm gonna always be all right out here. So that's kind of where I'm at now. Like, I like having friends. I hope I have friends always. If I don't, who gives a damn? I like, being able to love someone in a romantic way.
I like that truthfulness.
Yeah.
Yeah, hope to be able to be married happily ever after. But if God decides that I shouldn't, all right, life goes on. And it sounds kind of cold, but the truth is, if we start to value these relationships and these things more than we value our relationship with God, then we really don't have anything anyway. It's all, it's a mirage.
That's true.
Exactly. So yeah. Could you explain for our audience a little bit how you got to your current understanding of things? Because I know I didn't start off with it because I didn't want to. I just wanted to talk about you and what was going on with you in the past year. But you've written an autobiography, and also you have a short book and poems that you've put together as well that really let people get into your formative years, your growth from where you were to the person you are now. So, man, it is one heck of a tale. And of course, we don't want you to give the whole book away, but would you tell us a little bit about your journey from where you were to where you are now?
Well, I think to sum it up in a couple words, I was broken and I'm healed. So I think that pretty much is the premise, and that's the story. Growing up, my mom raised me, and my mom was broken. My mom had some things she was battling herself, and I don't know that mom ever healed from those things. So as a result, her parenting, what was a result of what she knew and who she was. So her and I had a very volatile relationship, and I was horrible. Like, I was just bad, bro. Like, I was not going to school. I would go to school, beat somebody up, and said that they did something to me, have the NAACP involved, all kind of mess. And I was just making stuff up because I wanted to fight. Yeah, I was reckless. I was causing, like, walkouts at the school. I would create, like, whole...
Walkouts?
Bruh, had the whole school signing a petition so we could all walk out at the same time because we was demanding something. I don't even remember what the hell we were demanding.
Dang, you had too much power.
I was doing all kind of mess. And, started selling weed, and then I dropped out of high school. I ended up getting pregnant at 6. I got pregnant at 15, had my daughter at 16. I was in a detention center while pregnant. Ended up kind of just aging out or foster care. I got, I forget the word for it, but at 17, I was on my own. So I ended up starting to hustle, started selling drugs, selling weed, selling crack, robbing people. But I was crazy, bro. Like, I mean, the stuff that I did, I'd be so fearful that my kids do similar things because, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So I ride them so hard because I'm like, I know you because I know me. And it's weird because I've always had a really big heart. But something, I think pain made me really cold.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I was about to ask you, you seem like a very caring person and a very cool person to be around. But like you said, what the thing that made you cold, that pushed you to those actions, or having to do that, may have been for survival, whatever it is. Of course, you break it down a little bit more in the book and whatnot. But like, what was that thing?
I think it was pain. I think I was hurting. I think I was hurting as a kid, not having a good relationship with my mom, not knowing my father and having a relationship with him. I didn't meet him until I was a teenager. By then I was already pregnant, and we didn't have a good relationship until I was in my 20s. I think I was always looking for love because I didn't feel it. I never felt loved as a child. And even those that did love me, I didn't know how to feel it. So because my definition of love was twisted, I felt like I never was loved. So all growing up, there was just this pain. Understood. I didn't believe in God. I heard of God. I knew there was a God that my grandmom talked about and my uncles talked about. My grandfather was a pastor, but I felt like they were crazy for praying to this imaginary magic man who watched me, get knocked out as a kid, who had me living in these circumstances. Yeah. If there's really a God that you talk about, then why am I living like this? That's how I felt. So I was hurt. And I think because I didn't know how to communicate effectively what my feelings were, I didn't know how to process emotions and deal with those things, I turned hurt into anger. So that anger came out every way it could, whether it be me being sexually promiscuous or popping pills, smoking weed and getting drunk every night, robbing folks, selling drugs, poisoning the community. Like, I did all those things out of pain and what I thought was survival. Because then I thought those were my only choices. I think even now it's hard for people in certain communities to see that there's a different kind of life out there that exists because you don't see it.
True.
So, because I didn't know. I didn't know. We would see things and say, that's my car or that's my house. But we didn't really believe that could be our car, that could be our house. Like, I thought I was destined to the projects. I was destined to the trailer park. I didn't know other options existed until I was sitting in a prison cell and decided that I would give God a chance. That little glimmer of hope. I found hope. I didn't have hope my whole life. Pain had kind of suppressed hope. So all I was dealing with was pain. And I think once I started to heal from that pain and I started to go to therapy, because I went to years of mental health therapy. I started to go to therapy. I started to do spiritual healing. I did the work. So I think that was the difference. There's no big secret. It's we all have shit, for a lack of better words. We all have shit that we deal with, that we all have shit from our childhoods. We all have trauma, that we've gained throughout the years growing up. We all have experiences that have made us and created us to be these people. And it's like bags. So we've added just bags and bags and bags and bags and bags. So by the time we're 25 years old, we're carrying duffel bags. We got suitcases. We got treasure trunks. We got Ziploc bags, damn fanny packs. We got, we're carrying trauma from every different avenue. And we're just doing our best to keep walking down the street and not look like be hunched over. We're doing our best to carry it. And I think when you get to the point where you realize it's okay to start unpacking that shit, then you win. It's okay to open up a bag that might make you cry, that might make you relive something that you want to forget happened. But you have to open that bag. You have to begin unpacking it. You got to get the stuff out of the bag in order to take the bag off and leave it somewhere. And I think that's what I started doing. I started unpacking those bags, and it was painful. So I'm not going to be here like, yo, I just took the bag off, threw it in the trash, boom, better. That's not what happened. I took the bag off, and when you take the bag off and start unpacking the bag, you cry. You start having nightmares sometimes because you're remembering things. So it's a painful thing to go through, but on the other side of that is healing. And that's the key to the best days of your life. So I think that's been the difference in my life, is that I've done the work to heal. That doesn't mean that I don't still have my days. There are still days that, I have nightmares and I can't sleep at night from experiences that, I went through in my former life. There are still, some days that are better than others because I'm still, I'm healed, but I'm still a person that's experienced those things. So healing is not a magic wand. I think it's a lifelong journey, but it gets better as you continue to put the work in.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. I always love hearing good stories. I love hearing when outcomes are like, I always tease, man, I have no problem with Disney movie endings. I like things to end out well. So, man, your story is remarkable. And I want to, if you could explain to people, like, when was the first time that you realized that you had a choice on how to address the traumatic experiences that you were going through? Because I know you were harping on that point, and it is the realest point ever to understand you got a choice. Like, when did you understand you had a choice over what was going on?
I think, I don't know. I think that was part of the journey too, because at first it wasn't that I realized I had a choice. At first it was another realization that I didn't have a choice, because I came home from prison and I was on 5 years of specialized probation, which meant if I failed a urine, if I got a speeding ticket, if I got in any trouble at all, I was going back to prison for 5 years. So coming home to that was like, bro, you don't got no choice but to try to do this the right way. Or you might as well just sign your death certificate. Because one thing I knew was I wasn't going back to jail. So in my mind, I was either going to do this right, or I was going all the way out and I was going to end up losing my life, because I was going to go, I was just going to throw shade to the wind and dive in. Yeah. So I knew I had tried everything. All my life, I had just done what I wanted to do and followed what I felt. And that wasn't always good. Like if I felt like bucking, I was going to buck. If I felt like taking something, I was going to take it. If I felt like hustling, I was going to hustle. Like I did all the wrong things all my life. Yeah. And I wasn't afraid of anything. There was no consequence that scared me. There was no person that made me shimmy. Like, it was just, I'm doing this because that's what I said I'm going to do. And what? Who gonna stop me, So when I came home, it was like, I should try to do it the right way. I just felt like I had never tried that. Like, I've never tried.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I never tried hard at nothing. Like, even in school, they tried to move me into gifted classes because I was really intelligent. But my mom was like, nah, let's leave her where she's at. And she was right, because I wasn't going.
Oh, that's
like, I wasn't going to apply myself. It felt like work. And I had been so accustomed to being able to do the least and survive, if that makes sense. Like, you get a different quality of life when you actually put effort into it. So I think coming home, I began to put effort into the right thing. And it was hard. Like, it was hard to lose your job and not go back to selling crack when somebody's offering you an ounce for free. That's a hard decision to make.
Ooh.
And I had to make that decision in the parole office parking lot. I just lost my job. I'm going to tell my PO. I leave the PO's office and somebody's standing there ready to give me an ounce of coke, and I don't got to give him no money back. That's almost a dumb thing to even say you didn't do.
Yeah, but that's...
I had to say, bro, I'm cool. Knowing I wasn't cool. Knowing I just lost my job. I ain't got no money. I don't know what I'm gonna do to survive, because really I ain't never did this the right way before. And then here you go popping up at my car offering me some crack. If I wasn't in my right frame of mind, I might have thought it was a blessing.
Yeah, that's a test. That's a test indeed.
Say it. That's a test. Yeah. Go ahead. Yep. Yes, it is.
So, I think along my journey, there were always things like that. You know, as I tried to continue to change, and still today, like there are times where stuff happens and I'm like, bruh, I should just punch you in the face. But I can't punch you in the face because it's not the right thing to do. And God is directing me to be a different type of person. But there are still tests all the time where something or somebody pops up and says, hey, remember who you used to be? And you literally got to fight through who you used to be. And I think that's a decision I make daily. And I think that we all have those decisions to make. Are we going to tap into who we are at our best? Are we going to tap into who God really created us to be? Or are we going to give in to being whoever the world will accept us as? Because, the world's going to welcome you with open arms no matter who you are. The world don't give a damn what you do or who you become. Just look at the facts. People die, people mourn them, people post them, and then next thing you know, they're not even mentioned anymore. So are we going to kind of succumb to the way that the world moves where they'll accept anything from us? We can be whatever dysfunctional shit we want to be, and it's okay because everybody's dysfunctional and we're comfortable there. Or are we going to push through that extra layer of ourselves to tap into the divine energy that we're made of, because we're made in Christ's image? So it's there, but we've got to fight to get to it. And that's a decision that I made when I came home, that I was going to continue every day to try to fight. Doesn't mean I'll always succeed. Doesn't mean I'll be perfect. But there's a decision made every day to try to be more like the woman that God created me to be. And my goal is, in my final days, for God to have said, well done. You really did your best. I know you slipped up here and there. I heard your mouth on some of those days, but I already knew that's what you was going to do because I know who you are. You've done your best.
Man, what are some words of wisdom you'd like to share with our audience about how to deal with difficult situations? I know that's something that seems to be paramount in your everyday, like you were just talking about. You can't be perfect on all those encounters with difficult situations, but doing your best and putting your best foot forward, it gives you a pretty good balance of outcomes, would you say?
Yeah, I think we have to not think about the outcome, because I think if we do things because we think that there's a prize at the end of it, then we're disappointed if the prize that we expected is not there. So it's kind of like I got kids, and my kids would often say to me, like, I don't do if you do this, then this. If you get straight A's, then we'll do this. I've never done that because I feel like it sets you up for disappointment, because then you think every time you do something good, you're supposed to get something. And that's not life.
That's true.
So I think that if we live our lives with the expectation of ultimately heaven, that's it. Because in this world, you might not get rewarded. In this world, you might actually just struggle. You might Job it all the way out. You might have to go through, nothing but torment the whole time you're here on this earth. The good thing about that is one day you're going to expire. That's a guarantee. One day you're going to die. It's going to happen. So I don't look at it like, I try not to. Don't get me wrong. I'm still fleshy. So I still think, well, I'm being good, so the blessing's going to come. That's still a part of me. But at the root of me, at my core, I understand that I might not get nothing but a seat next to Christ in the end. And if that's all I get, that's enough.
I understand that.
So if people don't think that, I think it gives life a different perspective. You might struggle through this life. You might have a cold winter with no heat in the crib. You might have to figure out what you're going to eat every day. You might not never be loved the way you want to be loved on this earth. Like, I don't think that having a relationship with God guarantees you the best life ever. Sometimes it guarantees you the opposite, because the world is not going to receive you. So there's no perfect plan, no prescription to manipulate the outcome of what you're going to get on this earth. But a relationship with Christ and, being obedient to his word does guarantee you a seat next to him in heaven. And I think that's what our goal should be.
Okay. So how would you put this? Do you think like one of the issues that we deal with in our community, because that's for some folks that understanding and that ability to keep your mental focus there. Of course, for all of us, we aren't perfect. We're going to fall short of the grace of God. But do you think the ability to sell, not to sell it, but to allow people to see it as something that is fruitful is a positive thing? Because I know in our community, a big part of the reason why folk choose pathways that can be destructive to them are because those pathways, of course, give you what people call, quote unquote, a good life. So do you think a good life can be found in keeping on that pathway that you found after you've been through your journey?
I mean, I do. I'm unemployed right now. And I'm on my MacBook with internet service and it's plugged into a wall that has electric. And I ate this morning. I think so. Now, I don't got a Maybach out front. I don't have lions roaming the backyard. But I think it's about what you want. Like what are your expectations from life? I tell you, when people say, I have people from back in the day that'll message me and say, oh my God, I'm so proud of you. You're so successful. And I cringe because what are you calling success? The picture that I posted with the celebrity, is that what success means to you? Because to me, successful is for the first time in my life, I'm at peace. That's success. Because that you can't buy. You can have all the money in the world and still be miserable. You can have all the fame and still be miserable and be, dysfunctional. So for me, success is being at peace. Like I feel peaceful. And I think that's something that I never had growing up. There was always some form of torment. I always felt like I was in a whirlwind. And now to me, like the skies are cleared and the seas are calmed. And that's what I was after. I was after peace of mind and a life that felt good to live. And that's where I'm at. So I think that following God may not, I like to hope that we'll all, have riches and that if we follow God and we believe in God, he will not only provide us our needs, but also our wants. But biblically, we know that doesn't always happen.
True. Most
of the time, there's a reward on the other end of that. But sometimes that reward isn't given until, you've expired. So there's just, I know that it'll be a better life as a follower of Christ. I can guarantee you that because you'll have peace with whatever situation you're in.
And I agree with you strongly on that. Peace outweighs a lot of other things that are sold to us out here. And I don't know, again, going back to where our people are right now in the world, being able to get people to have peace, especially right, it's hard to do, but the peace, like you said, that's a goal that I think it should outweigh and it should be able to sell and have people understand that that's the way you should run. But moving forward into the rest of this year, do you think that people will be able to find peace once things open up? Do you think that's going to help them out and not feeling trapped or inside? Because I know being a social animal, we need to see people. And I think the isolation that we've been going through has been causing an issue with people and their ability to keep peace and stay on a positive path. How do you feel about that?
I think that this pandemic has been kind of twofold. One, it's shown us our issues because we've had to be quiet and kind of be alone with ourselves. So we haven't been able to, when you're busy and you're doing things and you're always moving and you're always working, you don't really know what your problems are. Once you have to sit down and be by yourself for a while, you realize you might have some issues. I remember not being able to be alone. Like back in the day, BP, before prison, I could never be alone. If I was alone, I was drunk or high. because I couldn't be alone with my thoughts. And now I can be. So I think that it's shown us that thing. Like, okay, you got some things you needed to work on because you're sitting at home going crazy right now because you can't be busy, because you can't, fill your space with, empty things. But I think on the flip side of that, it's also allowed us to get back to things. I think people were praying and asking for things that the pandemic came with that we didn't really realize. So parents were wishing they had more time to spend with their children. Parents were wishing that they could get to know their kids again. And this forced us into that. You're home with your kids, homeschooling, you're getting to know your kids, you're spending more time with your kids. You asked for it. It didn't come the way you wanted it to come, but it's here. Marriages were wishing they had more time to spend together, wanted to get to know their spouse again, felt like the love had gotten lost. Well, now you in the crib 24 hours a day with one another. You got time to build now. Those things happened. I think it also helped us to take care of our bodies again. I mean, I started bike riding. I ain't rode a bike since I was like 12, but my big self was on a mountain bike driving down Riverfront. And I think, I don't know that I would have actually did that like as ritually as I did if it wasn't for the pandemic, because I was looking for a way to get out the house. There wasn't anywhere to go. I couldn't be around anyone. So I went to ride my bike. I started, taking vitamins. I never took vitamins before. Now that's the first thing I take after my thyroid medication in the morning. I ain't even used to take my thyroid medication. So I just think it's taught us. Yeah, I think it's taught us to, it's made us aware of the things we should have been doing all along. So it's been bad in the form of, people have lost their lives, and it's definitely changed some things and created a lot of loss here. But I think there have been some good things that we can get out of this too. And hopefully we can continue to take those things moving forward. So I hope that when the world opens back up, we don't get so busy that we forget the blessings that were given to us during this season.
Okay. So I don't know about you, Skip. I don't know if you agree with her. I don't want people to start rushing back into quote unquote getting and being together with a bunch of strangers at all the times. I think they should take their time as well and make sure that they get this ingrained into them that they do need to be a little slower. So yeah, that's a great, man. That's something I'm hoping that stays kind of the same. I don't want people to be afraid, because that's the one thing. I don't know how you feel about that either, Beasy, but do you think that there's been a lot of fear mongering going on instead of, how would you put it? Instead of just giving people good information and letting them make decisions like adults, do you think there's been a lot of attempt to keep people afraid and close off from people?
I think that people fear what they don't know, and we don't know nothing about this disease. We still don't know nothing. So I think that's what it is. I think it's like, oh shit, it's a scary monster. We never seen this monster before. And I think that's what happened. And the media, I mean, I've worked in media. I am media. Our job is to report, what's going on. But when you have 52 different television stations and 100 million radio stations reporting the same thing, it looks like you guys are really trying to scare the hell out of us. When the truth is, they're all just reporting. They're reporting the information they're getting. It just looks scary because it's coming at you from every direction all the time. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think that they're trying to incite fear. I think that they're scared.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah, is it real? Is it real, or is it happenstance? Just like you said, hey, they just happen to be saying the news or putting out what's out there. Or do you think there's a genuine, hey, we got to promote it? Why? Because, we're really afraid of it.
I think that they're scared. I don't think that ideally, no way in hell would the USA have wanted this pandemic to come in here. Not because they, naturally just care about all of us, but look how it impacted the economy.
Yes, jacked up.
So that's the one thing that, makes me, if they don't care about anything, they care about that money. They care about, the impact it has on trade and, the effect it's had on the economy. So I think they were scared. I don't think they knew what it was. And I think, like I said, I think that we're a little inflated ego-wise. I think we thought that things like this would never happen here. But in China, it was like, not in America, not in our country. We've got better air, or whatever the case may be. Yeah. So when it came over here, I think it was still ego inflated. Okay, that's just one person. We'll be fine. No way is this pandemic going to affect us. And then we realized that we're no greater than anyone else. And we've been completely affected and impacted. So I think there's a fear, because I think it was, that can't happen to me. Oh, shit, it's happening to me. And everybody panicked.
And so, like, all right, and dealing with that, they panicked. We had a big fear response. Things contracted. It closed us off socially from folk. And the big thing, especially you being a media person, I want to talk about this. Your thing, and like I said, is you're a communicator. You're a great communicator. You talk to folks in different situations, from different life experiences and whatnot. But you're also, you're a woman of God as well. So one thing about God is he doesn't want you to have fear. God doesn't want fear. Fear isn't supposed to reside in the same place. So do you think that this fear that's going on, it is real though? Because like you said, in the sense of it being real, we don't have any information. So we fear what we don't know. Do you think that it is, how would you say, not against, but in opposition to what you should be feeling during a time like this if you're a God-fearing person?
I don't know. That's a trick question, because I think naturally fear is a natural response to something.
Right.
So I think naturally, somebody says, hey, just want to let you know this virus that we've never heard of before, never dealt with before, is killing people, but don't be scared. Like that, that's not a human reaction. So I think naturally our instinct is to fear it. I fear change anywhere. If you tell me right now we about to go to video, something in me is going to say, shit, video. Okay. So that I think naturally you would fear it. It's unknown and it's scary. It is. I think once you get through that, you are supposed to walk with faith. But I think you also have to trust what God has put in position here. So if, there are different sciences that say, well, if you wash your hands, the likelihood of you getting it is reduced. Then yes, we have faith in God that all will be well, but we also have to trust scientists that say wash your hands, because, God created scientists just like he created you. So I think that we trust, the immediate fear is natural, but also trying to trust what God has put in place to assist us through this as well.
Yeah, because that's a big question.
That say, well, you can't trust them. When you turn on your light, you trust that the electric is not going to catch the house on fire.
Right. That's just something to flush out. Yeah, because like you said, the creation of the science does come from that source. So can science, like, this is a big thing right now, especially because of this, is the whole thing of God and science. Can they exist at the same time, especially when you're dealing with something that affects such a large, affects the entire world, is being brought into front and center. So I just wanted to ask you about that and see how you were being affected by that thought process, that paradigm that's out there. The faith in God, but also faith in science, because like you said, the science comes from people who, of course, they get their information sexually. We get our intellect, and I believe this, from God. That's how we understand and learn new things and discover things. But there has been a break between those two, because you have some folks, and I understand this because I work at Lexington Medical Center, and I deal with a lot of folk who come in every day who have no belief in what COVID is or that it's even real, but they're extremely, and they expound is that they're God-fearing people. And that's the reason why they don't believe in COVID. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me. So that's something that I have to deal with every day. And I think it's a weird paradigm, a thought process, because the one thing actually leads to the other. So you shouldn't at all, I guess, oppose them or have them be separated. And I didn't know how you felt about that idea. That's why I asked you that question.
Well, I think sometimes we can be a little bit too woke. I think you have to pick a side. Mm-hmm. So you can't say, I don't believe there is this illness. I don't believe in science. However, I'm driving a car that somebody in science helped create, using lights that science somehow helped create, eating food that has been mechanically altered, or hormones have changed. Just there's so much that we rely on that is scientifically based. Yeah. So you're picking the one that you don't believe. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm telling everybody to go get a vaccine, because I think we also have to use common sense. For me, True. My mom has taken the vaccine. I don't knock my mom for taking the vaccine. She works in the emergency department. She's faced COVID, like head on. So I don't know what that feels like. If my mother feels like she needs to take a COVID vaccine in order to feel more protected, by all means, that's what she should do. I, however, am not taking the COVID vaccine. I won't say I'm never taking it. I will say it's a little soon for me until, we don't know about the virus. I don't know how much we can know about beating the virus. So that makes me a little uncomfortable. But that doesn't mean that I don't believe in the science of it. I do believe that there are scientists that will come up with something that can beat this. I'm just a little uncomfortable with taking it right now. So I don't think that if you believe in God, you shouldn't believe in science. I think that God created everything, so that's just like I go to the doctor. I have thyroid disease. So I trust that when I go to the doctor knows more about my thyroid disease than I do. I trust that when the doctor gives me medication or a diet regimen or whatever to do, I trust him because he knows more about that than I do. That doesn't mean that I don't believe in God. That doesn't mean that I don't have faith in Christ. That means that I have faith that Christ also gave me this doctor, that he also led me to this doctor's office for this blood work, that he also has me in good hands regarding my health. So I think, that's what I think. I think, you have faith in Christ, but you also have faith that Christ has put people in position to be able to help you on this earth.
Exactly. I agree that totally. I just want our listeners to hear a perspective like that so they can see that there's a bridge between the two, and you don't have to, like say, throw the baby out with the bathwater, choose one and not the other. It is completely interrelated all the way through. I have another question going on to a lighter note. And I know we talked about radio a little bit, but how do you feel about where radio is going at the moment? And do you think now, especially after COVID and the fact that they said they shrunk the stations and the stations are still able to run and stuff, where do you think it's going? Do you think it's going to be a mainly internet based item, or do you think that there will still be brick and mortar radio stations out here broadcasting specifically from a location?
I think both. I think that radio is a business, just like any other business, and businesses are created to make money. So I think that companies have realized that they can make more money if they can streamline their stations, meaning one person in Philly works at 52 stations throughout the country.
Oh, God.
So in that way, they save money by only employing one person and, are able to make more money as a business. So I think that will happen first. I think that has already happened. If you look at people like iHeart and watch what they're doing, because usually the other companies will follow suit. So I think that's what's going to happen at first. I think that the local radio stations will begin to be more and more, non-existent. And it will sound like internet radio and pretty much essentially be that. So internet stations will be able to compete, if they can give quality content. I think the internet stations will eventually be able to compete with radio stations because they're taking away the localized factor, which is the thing that made radio to me. Growing up, I loved being able to see the personalities in the community. I love being able to turn on the radio and hear a personality say, yo, on, 100 and whatever street today, I saw this person. Nobody's going to be able to do that moving forward. It's going to be so generalized. It's pretty much just going to be music with ads. And that's internet radio. So I think that. But I also think that when we get full-fledged there, where all the companies are pretty much streamlining this same recipe for radio, somebody is going to jump out and say, I'm bringing it back local. And that's going to change things, because no matter how you see it, we're human beings feel, right? Like that's what makes us different from a chair. We feel. So yes, we love radio. Yes, music is the star. But the truth of the matter is, when you can get into people's homes and hearts, you can get into their pockets. Let's just be real. So because radio is a business, they're focused on making money. They're going to streamline this in a way to save money. But somebody's going to realize that if we can put people back on those blocks, if we can have people back in the community, if we can have people talking back about what's going on and what's important to those people locally, then those people are going to fall in love all over again with those people, you know, with that radio station, because it's the same music, but now I got people on there that care about me. I have people on there that see my kids at school, that I saw at Walmart yesterday. And I think that's going to be the difference. So I do think it's going to change, but I think it will slowly begin to change back.
That's a good answer, man. And yeah, you being an insider and actually understanding how that works, that makes sense. And that was one of my big things. We used to do a little internet radio thing, and I always thought it was funny because all it was just the music playing and then them throwing in ads. And I'm like, I don't think that's quite attractive, but I've seen radio moving that way for a while. I'm just surprised because the thing is, people still drive cars. And that's the one thing about driving cars and being in an area. If you want to go someplace and get the flavor of the place, you turn on a local radio station so you can see what's going on, where people are moving, and et cetera. So I hope that does stay around because I'm a radio fan. I'm not going to lie. I listen to the radio on my phone to make sure I'm paying attention to what's going on. But you are also, and this is another light question, but I know you have done many interviews in your career. Who would be on your Mount Rushmore of people to interview? If you can interview anybody, anytime, anybody who's alive or dead, what, 1 to 4 people would you like to interview?
Dead? Mm-hmm. Probably Jesus and Tupac. Maybe, yeah. Ooh, Jesus, right, Tupac. If I had to pick 4 dead, Jesus, Tupac, Marilyn Monroe, and Bob Marley. So those would be my 4 dead. My one alive would be Jay-Z.
That's deep. That's a good list, man. Why would you want those 4? What's the reasoning? Of course, I can understand Jesus, but what's the reasoning with the others?
Well, I think Tupac, I enjoy Tupac's perspective on things. And I would like to know after death, did you really think Big killed you? Did you really think Big had something to do with your death? Like what really went down? I would want to know those things. And I would want to know what he thinks about, today and today's music. I just think he'd be an interesting conversation. Pac was definitely an intellectual, and he always had something to say about something. So I think it would be a good interview. And Marilyn Monroe was really pained. And I think as beautiful as she was and as iconic as she was, I think she dealt with a lot of demons, and I think she had a lot of healing to do. And I just wonder if, in hindsight, if it wasn't cool to get therapy back then, if somebody hadn't invested in her and saw her beyond her beauty, if the outcome would have been different for her. So I just like to have a conversation with her, kind of to, try to bring those things to the surface in hopes that, resting peacefully would be the end goal. And then Bob Marley, because, I would just want to be in a room with him. Like, we don't even got to talk. I just think that he had like this supernatural energy about him, and it like exuded peace, peace, happiness, and just like, I don't know. I would want to be in the room with that kind of energy.
It seems like, like I said, that peace thing is big for you. So I could see that. That makes sense. Just to be around his vibe and understand, just to feel that energy and see that calmness. Because I've never seen him ever displayed or represented in a way that is not that, unless it was righteous indignation, as I like to call it, unless he was fighting for the rights of the people. But Yes. I'm going to give that one. That's on point. Before we wrap up today, I do want to ask if you have anything you'd like to share with our audience about things that you would like them to go check out, things that you may have upcoming, or any like part words you have for them to help them. Because again, you are a motivational speaker, in my opinion. Anything that you can leave with our guests, but also, man, this is your time to promote and let us know what's going on with you.
Yeah, I got the book out, Convicted, the Beasy Baybie story. It's everywhere. Amazon will let you read some of it before you buy it. So you can go over there and read a couple chapters and read the reviews and then purchase if you'd like. But if you'd like. And then I'm working on some other things as well. I don't think I should speak on them yet, but I'm working on some other things. And, I do motivational speaking engagements. I'm not cool with being in a room with like hundreds and thousands of people right now, just because even if there's no threat, my anxiety will make me feel there is. So it's not going to work out right. But I'm doing virtual stuff. So you can always reach out, beasybaybie@gmail.com. And I don't know. I don't know. If there were lasting words to leave with people, I would just say get to God, because I think that's kind of the solution for everything else. I would say figure out who you are, find your purpose, heal from the things you are dealing with. But the truth is, if you get to God, then it like spiders off from there. So once you get to God, you discover that there's some healing you need. Once you get to God, you realize who you're supposed to be in him. You find your purpose. So I think the root of it all is get to God. And that's going to look different for everybody. Some people say, I can't read the Bible. I don't understand it. Me neither, sis, bruh. But there is a Bible called The Message, and The Message is so much easier to understand. Like, they almost use Ebonics. I'm kidding, but they break it down really easily. So read your Bible, and even if you're not into reading the Bible right away, just start praying. Talk to God like you talk to anybody else. Like, I legit will be in the car and be like, yo, God, I'm like this close. Please help me, because I'm about to snap. Like, I have conversations with him like he's sitting right there, because all that those are thou, like he know I'm not doing that. I'm not walking around talking like that. So I'm not getting ready to put on for God, because he's going to sit there like, sis, is this the type of time you on right now?
Go on.
So, I think having a conversation with Christ is literally your best friend, meaning, the way that you talk to your friends, you need to have some reverence, of course, have a little respect when talking to him, but you be yourself and start those conversations, because it's just like any other relationship. If you want a boo, you see the boo on Instagram, they fine. You start out liking pics. You might like 12 pics in a row, so they see you liking. Then you might shoot a little DM, might slide from the DM to a date, might go from the date to a little time at the crib. Next thing you know, y'all paced in a relationship with the ultimate goal of marriage. It's the same thing with Christ. You start off slow. Start off with little baby steps, little prayers. If you got to start off with the now I lay me down to sleep joint, just start out with a prayer. And then that prayer increases the conversations. Those conversations make you hungry for the word. And then you end up in the Bible. And next thing you know, you're a full-fledged Christian in here. And again, that doesn't mean you're perfect. Doesn't mean you won't go have, a shot of Jack if you in the bar. It just means that, you're after God's heart and you believe that Jesus Christ died for your sins. So in those ways, that's my encouragement. Just, I think that there's peace and happiness found by having a relationship with him. So that's my advice to you. Get to him.
Man, that's beautiful words, man. Beautiful words. Skip, is there anything you'd like to add before we finish up today?
No, I think it was a beautiful interview. Like I said, you were always somebody that was always of some interest, and just like getting to talk to and just getting to know a little bit more about your story. Because I've always heard about your story just from other people that I know that know you. And I think, like I said, it was just a great opportunity just to have you up here and stuff. And we definitely look forward to, of course, supporting you as an author as well, and just any other projects that you work on. So we're definitely going to be in touch, and we're definitely going to be continuing to follow you and support you. No problem.
Man, we appreciate you actually coming on here for us, because we're a fledgling podcast. We're just starting off. You are our 7th episode. So we've been going through the little ups and downs, trying to figure out how to do things properly and whatnot. And you are a polished professional. So it's nice having folk on like that who can give us a little bit of understanding, but we can also follow behind you and see what and how you handle your business. So, but with that being said, I like to say happy Saturday to everybody. I always like to say happy whatever the day is, because I'm always happy about being alive. Everybody have a blessed Saturday. And this is the Hilltop Podcast, the Hilltop Glove Podcast. We'll get back at you next time. Peace. That's it for today's episode of the Hilltop Glove Podcast. Make sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and other platforms. Also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Hilltop Glove.
That's it for today's episode of the Hilltop Glove Podcast. Make sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and other platforms. Also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Hilltop Glove.